Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Lau with Kenshin Crafts. This video I am going to review and go over my February currently inked pens and go over the ranking for my least favorite to my most favorite pens. So again, I do my currently inked for every 2 months. So if it's February currently inked, I use them in February and March. So let's get started. I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I had 10. I'm missing one. Oh, yes, there's a reason why I'm missing one. Okay, let's get started by talking about how the number 10 is no longer with me. So my least favorite was the TWSBI Diamond 580 ALR Punch Pink with a medium nib, and I had that with Robert Oster Vampire Pigeon. The moment I did this in my currently inked video, it clogged on me. Robert Oster tends to have some difficult shimmer inks, and I know that there are some people who have Diamond 580s that handle shimmers really well, but mine did not. I completely flushed that pen right away after the video, and I gave it away. I gave this pen away because I don't think it was worth selling. There was some issues with the piston, and that's another thing I hate so much about TWSBI Diamond 580. Yes, it is a little bit of a skill issue where you're able to disassemble the pen by yourself, and TWSBI encourages that. And so when I disassembled the pen to re-lubricate the piston, the rubber piston part with the silicone grease, and putting it back together, every time I would untwist the knob at the end, it just pops out once I'm at the end. And I have watched Goulet Pen's video on how to like reinsert that rod. It is a little intricate, but I have learned to do it. I thought I did it fine, but every time I get to the end of pulling the piston back up, the end piece of the finial, let me explain this a little better, or with a visual. So this piece here, I would pull it up to the end to clean it, and once the piston reaches the top here or at the bottom, this piece just falls right out, and it was really frustrating and annoying. So I'm just wondering, like, I haven't found any videos to help me with that issue. It's not a terrible thing. Once it comes out, you could just screw it back in, but it's really annoying that even happens. And so I decided I'm not going to sell that pen. Like, someone's going to have an issue with that. They can probably fix it, but I just decided to enable somebody with it. So I gave that away. It is my number 10. I did not like the fact that it did not handle that shimmer well. So at 10th place is that TWSBI. Again, comfort of my TWSBIs. Let's see. The comfort is an 8 for my TWSBIs. I can't really grade this pen because I didn't use it at all. The flow, well, based on that, we can say that the flow is like a -4. It started to write and then it clogged. Okay. So yes, you can disregard this one. It's not the most fair of a grading scale because I didn't use it. At number 9 is my Platinum Century 3776 Keen Shoe with a 14 karat fine nib. Now this one I did not pick up as much because this fine nib is just way too thin for most things. Like even tracking stuff on the weeks, this is a very thin nib, and I like my nibs to be a little bit thicker than this fine nib. I have seen people with platinum fines that write a little bit thicker of a line. Mine is like an extra fine. So maybe I just need to get this tuned to where it's a little bit wetter, like it writes a little broader, then it'll be perfect for me. So this one is at number 9. It is very great in terms of flow. So the flow is quite controlled. I am giving this flow a 0. But I definitely feel the feedback when I'm writing because it's not, so I'm gonna give this one a -1. It's a bit on it leans a bit drier. The flow of this pen, as with most Platinum Century 3776, they're super comfy, and they are also light. So I'm giving this comfort a 9. This pen is gorgeous and beautiful. It's just that the nib isn't to my liking. So if I can do something about this nib, then this pen might be more enjoyable. All right, at number 8, I'm gonna have to say my Lamy Luxe Rose Gold, or the Lamy All-Star. Now, the problem with this pen mainly is the grip section. It just doesn't vibe well with me. This nib is gorgeous. And then another problem, and I'm not sure where the problem comes from, but this Robert Oster ink coming out, the rose gold Antiqua coming out of this ink doesn't look very rose dusty pink. It looks more like very, very brown. And I'm wondering if it's the feed that wasn't cleaned so well, but this ink it writes much darker than it actually should be. So at 8th place, you can see how it's like a brown here when it should be more pink. The comfort of this pen, A7. I don't like it at all. The flow of this, Robert Oster's Rose Gold Antique was actually a dry ink, but you can see here, it's pretty wet. So this flow is about a 2. Yeah, it leans on the wet side. So it's nice. It's very nice. I don't pick up my Lamis as much just because they don't really bring me a lot of joy to look at it or write with. All right, at number 7 is my Kaweco All-Star or All-Sport in pink. And I really like the width of this nib, actually. It's really, really nice. But I didn't really like this ink color too much. It is a little different. It goes down brighter pink and then it dries darker, like a brownish pink. So this one is at 7th. So you see that brighter pink, it's going to dry out to be a little bit darker. The comfort of my Kaweco All Sports are about, like, I'm giving them an 8.5 because the threads here are a little sharp, so you can feel it as you're gliding through it, but that's also a good thing for me. 8.5. So I would like my threads to be not sharp, but like you can use it to stop your fingers or to like rest your fingers nicely. And so, and the weight of this pen is also really nice. Everything, like the clip, the aluminum body, the ink inside, it's a perfect weight. The flow of this ink is actually pretty good. It's an average flowing ink. I'm going to give it a 1 because it does, like, I can see it drying, like it's wet and it's drying. So like it doesn't dry right away. All right. Yeah, so this pen was really good though. I just, this color ink wasn't my favorite. It didn't inspire me as much as the other colors. At number 6. Number 6 is my Persian Princess by Pens by Casey. This pen, it's very, very beautiful. This is my only custom-made pen. I think that the comfort of this pen is actually so comfy. It is light. It feels great. Like you can tell it's not just plain plastic, even though it's as light as a plastic pen would be. I paired this with Blushing Motion, which is so dry. So this one is 6th place. And I also have the cypress nib in here, which I don't quite like. The tipping material on this cypress nib is very round and it's really thick. So it doesn't feel, I don't know, like on the paper, it doesn't feel as smooth. But also because it's got a dry ink in there, that probably adds to it not feeling so great. However, it was able to maintain the flow pretty okay with such a dry ink. And this ink is way too gorgeous. It dries so beautifully because the rose gold shimmers really, really do pop out. It's not like the shimmers just show up on the first paragraph and then no more. Like it shows up throughout the whole thing. So the comfort of this pen, I'm going to give it a 9. It's quite comfy. And the flow of this ink, I'm going to give it a -3. It's a bit on the dry flow side. I did have to prime this once. And it's very, very uncomfortable to write with after a few sentences because it gets really dry and draggy. So I definitely will continue to find the wettest pen to pair with this blushing mushroom. All right, at number 5, this one, it's my Sailor Pro Gear Kisan. This is a 21 karat gold nib. Now, I chose this to be 5. It's not, I love my Sailor pens. I love them aesthetically so much, but this nib is way too broad. It is so broad for a medium. In almost any paper, it writes really broadly, and obviously putting a very wet ink into it doesn't help either. But like, I just love the tone of this ink. However, it's really, really pretty. It's another jewel toned ink. It's really bright. So my Sailor Kisan. A Sailor Pro Gear Kisan is number 5. Yeah, you see, that was just way too broad for medium. Yeah, you can see that here is my Lamy medium, and it writes as thick as the Lamy medium. Like, it's supposed to be 1 nib size thinner, and then we have the Persian Princess Pens by Casey is also medium, and that one writes thinner, but only because it's got a shimmer ink. Let's see, the comfort of my Sailor, 9.5. They're almost perfect. The flow of this ink, I will say, is about a 2. We're gonna say it's a 3. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, this flow is about a 2. It's not overly wet, but I don't know, because it writes so thick, it might just be the tipping material on this nib. I most likely am going to have this ground in Chicago or the San Francisco Pen Show. All right, sitting at number 4. 4 will have to be my Kaweco Lilac, the Kaweco All Sport Lilac. Now, I chose this to be number 4 because I simply adore this soft shade of lavender. It's just, or lilac. It's so nice. And then the nib was so thin but sharp, and I paired it with an ink that wouldn't be well flowing in it. So I picked it up all the time to write in my Hobonichi weeks, and so it served a really good purpose. I loved the color that I paired with it, and I love the color of the pen. And the CSI nib that I have in here, it's just so good. And because it's a very dry custom grind, this wet Pilot ink made it very tamed and not super dry. So I will say that the flow is a -1. It's a bit on the dry side, but it still flows pretty nicely. And the comfort of this is the same as my other Kaweco, 8.5. Lovely, and a sharp writing pen. At number 3, so we have these 3. All right, so as you can tell, these 3 are aesthetically pleasing and probably my favorite of the bunch here, or they're definitely my favorite of the bunch here. But in terms of just like all 3 of these qualities together, like how often I picked it up, how comfortable they were, and the flow of the ink and pen pairing, for number 3, which one of these did I pick up more often? Okay, so sitting at number 3 is my Leonardo Momento Zero Fioritura Viola, and it's a beautiful purple pen. It's a darker purple, but it's bright in the light. And I had paired it up with the same ink that I had in December, which is Ferris Wheel Press Sugar and Spite. Lovely wet pairing. Let's see, this is number 3. The comfort of this pen, 9.5. All my Leonardos are 9.5. They feel so good in my hand. The flow of this ink, I'm giving it a 3. It's a wet pairing, and so, but it's just so lovely. And like, you can kind of see a little bit of feathering going on here, so it's quite wet. But yeah, I think the fact that it was the same ink that I just continued from December that I didn't use as much as these next two. The Leonardo Momento Zero Grande Mother of Pearl will have to come second. And I think it's mainly because this color is a little too dark for me, and I did not get as much shading as I wanted. And so this ink, definitely, the ink that I had in here is Kobe Kitano Olive Green by Kobe, and it's a relatively average flowing bit on the wet side. And so that kind of an ink with a very wet pen does not show up too much shading unless you have the right paper for it. So this came at second place, but when I did see the shading, I loved it. I loved the ink so much, or I loved like just the writing experience, because I loved my stub nib from this pen, one of the most unique Leonardos in my collection, with a very scratchy stub nib. Well, that's my description, but it's a very feedbacky stub nib. You know, most stubs are very smooth, but this one has a lot of feedback to it for some reason, and I enjoy it. So second place goes to the Leonardo Mother of Pearl. The comfort here, 9.5. Absolutely beautiful in my hand. I loved the older versions of the Grande where they had this milk bottle shape with a gold lining, or like a gold band at the end there, because I just feel like it's just so much more luxurious to have those extra bands throughout the pen. It definitely takes more effort to put all these little gold furnishing throughout the pen. The more current Leonardo Momento Zero Grandes don't look as pretty to me. For example, here's the newer model of the Momento Zero Grande, and it's just the acrylic all the way to the end of the grip section. It doesn't have that extra gold ring on it. Some people don't like the gold ring, some people do. I'm one of the people that loves that gold ring. It just adds more flourish and excitement and beauty to the pen, I think. So yeah, and so again, this ink color is too dark. I would love more if it had more shading. So the flow of this ink was definitely a 3. It's very, very wet. Almost a 4. Yeah, it's still super wet. And first place. Y'all already probably figured this out, but my Sailor Pro Gear Kubo Zakura with a medium nib with the Kobe Sunset of that day is my top favorite of February. I love my dusty pink inks. I love dusty pinks that they just shine and they're so bright and they're beautiful to look at. And this one is the softest milky pink you can ever find on a pen. It almost looks white in this lighting, but in person you can see it changing from a soft pink to a white. It's so magical. My favorite pen, and I love these clear finials where it's a different color. Like, it just complements it so well, and I love the pink rose gold of the metal pieces to accent this whole pen. I think it's perfection. This pen is, it's not my most, it is, yeah. This is my most expensive Sailor. And it rightfully so. It is so good. It writes so nicely. So again, I do have a medium nib in here. Kobe Sunset of that day. You can see the shading going on here, that it can get this dark or it can get this light, depending on how wet or dry your pen is. And because this pen is a bit wetter, it's getting me the medium shades right there. You can see it's not as dark as this darkest pink, but it's not as light as this medium pink. So it's giving me something in between. Now, if I think one of my viewers, she also bought this Sunset of that day ink, and they tried it in their medium fine nib, and it was a lot lighter. It wasn't this beautiful pink that I have here. And so, you know, we discussed about it, and that because a Sailor medium fine is a lot drier than a Sailor medium, that you will not get the same shade as I did here. And that's why I do these little blotches or swatches of inks, because you can see all the shades that this ink can give you based on how wet or dry your pen is. So I am just so happy. So this ink does have a lot of shading, and I think it leans a little bit on the dry side. So it's perfect with this pen. First place, well deserved, and the comfort 9.5. The flow of this, I'm giving it a 1. It's so good, so good. It didn't take too long to dry. It was not dry at all. It had a smooth flow to it, you know, and it still maintains the feedback that I love. So, top 3. Who knew it would have been a Leonardo and a Sailor in the top 3? Who knew? Okay, so yes, that was my review of my pens from February, currently inked. So thank you so much for joining me in reviewing my pens. I hope that was helpful for you guys to kind of see the kind of ink pen pairings that I like in terms of how they flow out of my pens, and just let me know how you guys pair your pens and inks, whether it's based on flow, based on color, based on matching the pen, and how do you feel about your pens after you've written with them. So, all right, again, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next currently inked pen video. Bye.